Deep in the woods, hidden from prying eyes, stood an abandoned treehouse. It was said that once, long ago, a family built it for their son until one tragic night, the boy vanished without a trace. The treehouse had been empty ever since. Or so they thought. Jake and his friends were always looking for adventure. When they heard about the Whispering Treehouse, they laughed at the local legends. Ghost stories never scared them. So, one evening, just before sunset, they hiked through the dense forest, finally reaching the towering oak with the treehouse perched high above. The wooden ladder creaked under their weight as they climbed up. Inside, the air was thick with dust and something else. Something wrong. Faint whispers drifted through the air, though none of them were speaking. Guys, did you hear that? Lisa's voice trembled. Suddenly, the old wooden door slammed shut. On its own. The floor beneath them felt like it was. Breathing, then the whispers turned into a voice small, desperate. Help me. I'm still here. Jake turned pale. He saw shadows flickering in the corners, their shapes shifting like children playing. But with hollow, empty eyes, the group bolted for the ladder, but it was gone. The walls of the treehouse stretched and twisted as if the structure itself was alive. Then the voice whispered again, this time right in their ears, stay with me. Forever, the next morning, the treehouse was silent again. No one ever found the kids. But sometimes, if you stand beneath the tree at night, you can hear the whispers calling for more. Ethan and Mia loved their summers at the cabin. It was their escape from the noise of the city, a place where they could run wild through the woods, build forts, and pretend they were explorers in an uncharted land. But this year, something was. Different. It started with the whispers. Ethan heard them first faint, almost imperceptible murmurs carried on the wind. They seemed to come from deep within the forest, just beyond the clearing where they played. At first, he brushed it off as his imagination. But then he saw it, a treehouse, perched high in the gnarled branches of an old oak tree. It stood like a sentinel watching over the woods. It wasn't there yesterday. Ethan was sure of it. He'd played in that very spot, and there had been nothing but the oak's twisted limbs. Grandpa, did you build that? Ethan asked, pointing to the treehouse as they sat by the fireplace that evening. His grandfather frowned, his weathered face creasing with confusion. There's no treehouse in these woods, Ethan, but there it was. Every day, just beyond the clearing, the treehouse stood in silent defiance. It was perfect, too perfect. The wood was smooth and unweathered, the rope ladder neatly tied, and the windows gleamed as if they'd just been polished. One night, curiosity got the better of Ethan. He couldn't sleep, his mind racing with questions. What was the treehouse? Who built it? And why did it feel like it was? Calling to him, he woke Mia, who grumbled but followed him anyway. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie silver light over the forest. The treehouse loomed ahead, its silhouette stark against the night. The rope ladder swayed gently in the breeze as they climbed. Inside, the treehouse was immaculate. A small bed sat in one corner, a table in another, and even a few toys were scattered across the floor. It looked like a child's dream, but something felt off. The air was too still, too quiet. The walls seemed to hum faintly, as if alive. Mia shivered, clutching Ethan's arm. Ethan. Look, she whispered, pointing to the far wall. Carved into the wood were names, dozens of them. Some were fresh, the cuts still sharp and clean. Others were old, the letters faded and worn. And some were crossed out with deep, jagged Lines. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he saw their names among the carvings. Ethan. "That's us," Mia said, her voice trembling. Before Ethan could respond, the air grew colder. The walls darkened, the wood twisting and warping as if alive. The carvings began to shift, the names morphing into strange, glowing symbols that pulsed with an unnatural light. And then they heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Climbing the ladder, Ethan grabbed Mia's hand and bolted for the trapdoor. But when he looked down, his blood turned to ice. The ground was gone. Below them stretched an endless black void. It pulsed. Faintly, like a heartbeat, and faint, ghostly hands reached up from the darkness. Grasping at the edges of the trapdoor, a voice echoed through the treehouse, deep and resonant, filling the space with an oppressive weight. You weren't supposed to see this. Now you can never leave. The walls closed in, the wood groaning and creaking as if alive. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter, their light blinding. Ethan and Mia clung to each other, their screams swallowed by the suffocating darkness. The next morning, their grandparents searched the woods. They called their names until their voices were hoarse, but there was no sign of Ethan or Mia, and no sign of the treehouse. But sometimes at sunset, when the light is just right, a treehouse appears in the woods. It's perfect, inviting, and it's waiting for you.